This is another piece of the story that I posted last week. It's just another little segment of it. The sound of running water, the smell of old wood. The girls knew they were home. They had returned from one of the best adventures of their lives. Their home planet is named Surrey. Like many within the side of the universe, it's a traveling planet. The people's hearts were open and they were able to see intense energy. The people were able to know the intentions behind everyone's actions, and they were also able to see concentrated energy like chakras and auras. Portals are everywhere. You can jump from planet to planet by walking through. The portals are all shapes and sizes. The shape would show you where you would go. A half circle with a curve to the south would take you to the middle of the planet. A half circle with a curve to the north would take you to the atmosphere of the planet, where there were docking stations and around the energy of the portal. The docking stations were there to stand on so you can be within the energy of the atmosphere. The atmosphere of the planet was a very powerful place to be. It was beyond emotion and left you feeling like you were part of the energy that flowed through all things. The full circle would take you to the surface land. Every portal was different, and you can see the land behind the portal by looking through it. Most planets did not have the same portals, so you're able to jump from planet to planet, having to return the same way to get home. Portals have the ability to close. If the portal itself became cold or negative, it couldn't stay open. Portals can become negative by the energy around them, and they can choose to become negative. There is soft bands of energy that curl and curve around the edge of the portals. The colors and intensity of the bands depend on the land they are surrounding. There are planets that you could go to but could not return from. See, it took the energy within and on the planet to be open and positive for the beings to be able to see the portals. The portals were always there, but you can't go through them unless you could see them. It takes a collective positive energy for the people to have the ability to see the portals. If the realm is not positive, then it may not be possible to see the portal. The girls went as deep as 4 planets. It was risky going that far, but they kept running into planets they wanted to explore. The Tapia was a planet the girls had been to once before. They had spent some time jumping to make a list of the planets they had been to, and they weren't on for long the last time. It was filled with many different types of forest. The trees on this planet were lifelike, meaning they were able to get up and walk around. There were a few villages on this planet that inhabited other types of creatures, but to get to them, you had to ride a tree. They were the only ones that could walk over certain areas. The ground was sacred, and the trees were able to walk upon the ground without disturbing the vibration that kept the life force on the surface of all the native plant life. The trees are good things to take around, and their roots move around the ground like an octopus on the rocks. Tapia was a planet that jumped through Surrey. The girls wanted to find this old man that one of the girls' dad talked about named Orin. Orin lived on Tapio in the village connected to Surrey and Tapio together, 2 different planets. Orin's house is a huge cedar tree. He had been living in it since he had black hair. Now it was long, white, and he has a long beard, white beard. The girls knew that he had a huge presence in her dad's life, and the girls felt compelled to go see him. When they walked onto Tapio, it was muggy, humid, and warm. The girls set out to find Orin. Not much there. A few paths, a side road. There was a boarded-up house, but it didn't look used. There was a full circle around a large forest of trees. The paths were the only way out, and they started walking around the circle to see where the path led them. The first one had a small oak tree, and that sign said the Oakley Forest. The second path had a little cedar tree, and that sign said Old Cedar. The girls took the tree they needed to find Orin. The girls told the tree they needed to find Orin. A large walnut tree got up off the ground and picked the girls up and set them on the branches. As the girls were lifted up, they laughed and put their arms out to balance. The walnut tree started down the path towards Orin's house. It's about 15 feet down the path and turned into a boggy landscape filled with murky water, tall reeds and trees out of the water. As the walnut tree made its way through the reeds, and the walnut tree seemed to go right around them without breaking or disturbing them, up in the sky you could see smoke coming from Orin's place. It was set on the side of the valley in the middle of a cedar patch. As the two girls were on the walnut tree, they talked about what they would talk to Orin about, and looked up and saw a solid land coming closer. The walnut tree walked onto solid ground and took them to the beginning of the patch. The walnut tree set the girls down and told them to go to the mountains in the distance. They wouldn't miss the large cedar tree that stuck down on the side of the valley. The girls set out with the mountain in the distance. They didn't walk very far when they saw the top of the huge cedar tree. Going through a thick batch of branches, they saw Orin. He was putting wood on a pit that was in the fire in the front of the cedar tree. Over the pit was a large cast iron pot with water in it. Orin turned and saw the girls right away. He approached the girls slowly and started talking to them, almost surprised. Orin had never laid eyes on them before, that it was like the girls were old friends. He invited them into the cedar house, and Orin told the girls of a planet called Quandam. Quandam is a land with large ruins that came from many different planets. It was like a planet museum for the universe. There was not many people living on the planet, so there was no animals. This planet was filled with many different types of stones. All of them have different things they can affect. Orin said not to search for the stones, only pick up the ones that call out to you. One of the girls learned how to make jewelry out of metal from her mother. Her mother was known throughout the universe for making jewelry with stones that amplified positive energy within your soul. When you feel good and you were wearing a piece of her jewelry, you felt better and better. Many people never took the pieces off. It became a part of them. The Oakley Forest was on its own grid pattern. That's called the Oakley Grid. It's round, and the ground is constantly moving around in a circle. Portholes move with the land within the Oakley Grid. The trees that are rooted onto the ground move within the ground. The trees that are not rooted stand balanced as best as they can on the moving ground. When the trees are walking within the Oakley Grid, they have no problem and move around with ease. Stopping is another thing. When they stop in the Oakley Grid, they have to bury their roots fast and hold on for momentum to slow down. If they don't bury the roots, they may topple over. And when that happens, it's very difficult to get up. I'm going to stop right there.